Good afternoon, and it's Saturday, the 15th of November, 2025. Joining me in NCN studio this afternoon is none other than the Honorable Sanjeev Datadin, Attorney at Law, Member of Parliament. And we're here to talk about a fairly significant ruling that came down yesterday in the High Court regarding the vehicle, a Lamborghini, pertaining to the Mohameds, in this particular case, Azruddin Mohammed. And the public was informed earlier this week that the case had been withdrawn by the state. And I'm a bit kind of baffled, but I want you to clarify for me what happened yesterday.
So, yes, there were criminal charges filed in relation to the importation of the Lamborghini. That was filed by GRA. I was involved in that, and we've withdrawn that case. So the criminal charge was withdrawn. Yesterday's decision resulted from what we saw several months ago when GRA went to seize the vehicles because they had become want of entry, what we term want of entry. And they had resisted that. And they then went to the court and they got an injunction, an interim injunction, and then the substantive arguments were had. And yesterday, Justice Gino Peter Prasad, he was the judge who pronounced in the matter. Now, I want to be clear. Lawyers, and I'm a lawyer, we would have difficulties, and we have been critical of decisions made by a court. We're not criticizing, and I don't wish to criticize the judge personally or to say anything about him. But the decision which he gave on Friday is being appealed. And I can tell you there are very clear reasons why that appeal is happening. Now, the court placed a heavy reliance on something called a post-clearance audit. So this is something that exists across the world, across the Commonwealth. It's not an unusual thing. But it means that when you import goods into Guyana, you have to pay taxes on the value of that import. But let us be honest. Our GRA is dealing with an economy that is on a racetrack. The importation of goods, everything is just so much more. So you don't have the opportunity, if you like, to fully verify that you have come, this is actually the value. You're going with it and you're accepting. But post-clearance, what it does is after the goods have been cleared and duties and taxes paid and the vehicle taken by the importer, you're able to go back through those things and investigate items.
By law, you're allowed.
By law, under the 5th schedule, the law provides for that. When you find discrepancies, whether it is through you get information, things come to your attention, whatever it is, you're allowed to go back. Because if it were otherwise, think of what would happen to Guyana. Your goods would be sitting on the wharf for months while we are verifying to be certain. This post-clearance audit is not unusual. The court seemed to think that it should not have been done or it could not have been done, and had a difficulty with, in essence, that GRA could not do this. And the court has a view. I have great difficulties with that view in practical terms. You see, we have to understand, GRA has two obligations. One is to be of service, not to hinder commerce. One is to make sure that they collect the revenues that they're supposed to. When the balance between that is a cursory check is done, if you want to put it that way, and you accept what are within parameters. The officers operate with that. But then GRA's audit team goes through what has been imported in a more detailed and considered way. And if they find that you have not been truthful, they're entitled to do that and ask for you to pay the additional duty. The fundamental part about this, and I think the whole country knows, the whole country has seen the saga of this Lamborghini. Mr. Mohammed imported that vehicle, and the position of the state, the GRA, is that he paid nearly $800,000 for the vehicle. He declared it at $75,000. The duty paid is obviously vastly different. But what about that and how about that? He bought it from a seller, and he wired the money in 3 tranches to that seller. One of those was in the amount of $75,000. He alleged and he disclosed to GRA this was for the full purchase of the Lamborghini. The Lamborghini had been listed 2 days earlier and bought by the person who he bought it from. So it was clear. We have the record of the other bank transfers to the same seller. We have the complete amount is available. Now, make no mistake, that is fraudulent. And there is the view by that court or any other court or person that says that you need to have a justification for doing something, or GRA needs a justification for doing something, and that you cannot come after the fact once you've cleared the vehicle and do anything, must be wrong. Simply put, you cannot fraud, the adage in law is fraud unravels all. And if you have gained a position fraudulently in law, then no law is designed and no court should allow you to keep that position you have gained fraudulently. In this case, he was able to clear the vehicle by being fraudulent about how much he paid. He was not honest. When that is discovered, there is no basis and no court and nowhere should uphold that. Now, the court took a view of information being filed on time, and it's a common problem. The old phrase from C.J. Wooding to what is said in the Caribbean Court of Justice is that justice must be fair to all sides. And justice must be on the highways, not in the back streets of technicalities. And that means something. You can't shut out evidence because it did not meet some timeline or some prescribed. Courts doing that are going to create chaos because good cases, good defenses, people are not going to have it ventilated in court.
So when you look at the criminal side, which was withdrawn, and the civil charges or the civil case, what is the threshold there between the two?
Well, the criminal case was brought by GRA, so that was withdrawn. The civil case was brought by him to stop GRA. And if you think about it, to stop the Revenue Authority from seizing goods which it believes to be uncustomed is a very, there must be strong and exceptional circumstances for that to have been done in the first place. Be that as it may, how is it that people, or how is it that this country will run Is it that you will come import what you want into Guyana, get it cleared by custom, by subterfuge, by bribery, by whatever, and once they've done that, there is no remedy? How is that even possible? We all know as children what's right and wrong. The courts can't interpret laws, and the interpretation of the revenue laws in this case cannot be done so as to allow a person to get away with fraud. This is a court protecting an illegal act by saying we're not concerned about which side this is. We're well aware of all the things in the public domain, but we're still going to do this. How is that fairness in a judicial system? I agree. I am defense most of the time. I am against the state all of my career. And I understand that it must be fair to every citizen, but it must be fair to the state as well. Yeah. The trials must be fair to all the sides. The parties that have good support, good lawyers, even the ones that have poorer lawyers. Courts must hold that balance. And you can't say in good conscience, when everybody in Guyana knows that was the situation with the vehicle. And the vehicle, he was interviewed on social media, Mr. Mohamed, and he published it himself. He said he paid $1 million for the car. How could that not trigger an investigation? How could that be allowed that, look, we have done that? And then you will want to go point to, oh, this is victimization. These are all these things. I have no desire to engage in that. If you simply have to look, what are the factual circumstances here? Was a car imported into the country with a value declared that is undervalued? If the answer is yes, then all that follows should be easy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I looked at other jurisdictions, other economies, developed countries and countries like Guyana. And there is some statutory limitations, but in most cases there's none when there is a case of fraud. In Guyana, what is the statutory limitation for GRA?
Well, GRA has 7 years from an event to take legal proceedings. 7 years. It is the reason why, in most cases, your accountants would tell you, keep your records for 7 years, why the banks keep 7 years of records. So 7 years is the thing for GRA. But in instances of fraud, there is also no limitation.
No limitation.
No, because the rule is fraud unravels all. Again, it would have been a position that you would have obtained by deceit. The law is not intended to put a limitation on things that you have done illegally. The law is intended to put a limitation to what you have done within the confines of the law. You cannot be illegal and then run to hide under the law. That would be preposterous. The legal system would fail. And if that is the application, it fails. Customs laws and customs in this particular case, the issue is a post-clearance audit. And courts and the interpretation of it must be done in the context of what it is done. You can't read into it things that you think should be there. Tax law is a specialized area. But we all know simple English. And post-clearance audits, to say that once you clear a vehicle, you can't come back, is preposterous.
And in terms of tax and tax evasion, through fraudulent means. Why is that such an egregious affront to society and to the state that we live in?
Now, we all live in this country. We all see what is going on. We all hear, and we're all well aware that Guyana requires importation of goods in a big way. Exportation as well, but importation of goods is a big thing. And the payment of taxes and duties are a big thing, especially with motor vehicles, but with food, with other things, there are issues of it. And we all know, and we've all heard stories of people undervaluing, faking invoices, producing false. All of these things are being done. And it's robbing the country of revenue. But it's doing something worse. It's building a criminal regime, a criminal class, if you like, because the stories would be that these people who do it have their own particular friends in the revenue authority who are complicit. So what it does is it undermines governance. And the only way to bring it to an end is those who do it must not get away with it. So if they're not getting away with it, they're not going to be interested in trying to bribe or to corrupt any revenue authority officer. There would be no point. They know that here now, in the end, the game will be up and they have to face the music. So there would be no incentive to do that. But we are going from a position of where revenue, GRA might have been doing what it was doing for 10,000 people. I'm just saying a number a month. And now they're doing for 50, 60, 70,000 people a month. So the pressures on GRA are real. So the GRA is coping by various statutory provisions that allow it. Clear some of the goods at first blush, clear the things that got to get off the wharf, high value items, etc., perishables, other things that might take longer, you got more time to investigate, then go back and do your audits. So this is how it's surviving.
So this sends a really negative message, a wrong message, I think, to society as a whole, that this kind of behavior is okay.
It sends the message that if you manage to con GRA and pay nothing or not your fair taxes, and you have lied and you've committed fraud and you have deceived and forged your documents and you get away with it, then it's fine. As long as you get away with it, nobody could do you anything or touch you. It would be preposterous if that were true.
You mentioned about victimization a moment ago, that indeed Azharuddin Mohammed and Team Mohammed portray themselves as victim of this system, of a society, of a government that is after them. And they won this case. I think earlier in the week they also won another case on a different matter. Clearly, either the system is failing in controlling the judiciary, right, or the system is not against them, and this is just a false narrative.
Well, I don't understand the complaint that they make about being victims. I think it suits them to be the underdog and they want to position themselves that way, and that's fine. But obeying the law is not only for the wealthy, the poor. Obeying the law is for everyone. And at some stage and at some time, we have to get to the position. What was the issue? The issue was, is the Lamborghini that it was imported by Mr. Mohammed and registered to him, is that Lamborghini valued $75,000? Pure and simple. Is it 75,000 US dollars? If it is not, then he has not paid the true duty and taxes to the government, and the vehicle is liable to seizure because it is uncustomed. The GRA's policy and the law provides that they take the true taxes, they calculate what is to be, true value, calculate what the tax is to be paid, and he pays that. That is the only issue. Everything else that you hear is noise.
The judge also ruled that the state should pay cost.
That's part of the legal process. The winning side gets a sum of costs paid by the losing side. So that's done.
So this is Judge Gino Prasad of the High Court is at a certain level. Where does the state go now?
Well, this one will go firstly, I believe, to the full court. It's a fixed date application. So the appeals go to the full court, which would be 2 judges of the High Court sitting in the full court. The court after that would be the Court of Appeal, and after that court would be the CCJ. So that's the system. You know, I saw in the headlines that it was said that, you know, they have won, and that Mr. Mohammed says that it will be, he will bet that we will appeal the case, GRA will appeal the case, and he will bet that it will be a waste and all of that. Well, he could win the first part easily. We will appeal the case. You see, you have to understand, and you have to be aware of what it is, and you have to understand the judicial system. And a little bit of common sense will tell you that the judicial process is not one court. The judicial process in Guyana is 3 or 4 courts, depending on the type of matter. And it is only the final determination by the final court when a matter is done, or that the parties decide not to pursue any more appeals and to accept the decision. But the judicial system, it's not one court and you're done. So for him to say that he's won the case, he's not. He's won in the first court. Let's say that's round 1. We have to go, we have more to go. And we have, as I said, it's not a criticism of the judge personally. It is, I believe, there are difficulties and errors with the judgment. As a result, we go to another court and we make the arguments about what the errors are. That court may or may not agree. And if that one don't, we go to the next. This is how it works. This is how the judicial system is designed.
So is it at this point in time, I've heard some commentators say it is all academic at this point, because Judge Gino Prasad could have said, there is no criminal element here anymore, that's been withdrawn. You now have this whole idea of seizing your car has gone away. What are we even doing here? But he made a ruling, and now that ruling is going to be appealed. But is it academic, or is it more than
No. It's not academic at all. It's a live issue. The criminal matter has nothing to do with the payment of the taxes, right? The criminal matter is for a criminal offense. The non-payment of the taxes is a whole separate issue. And the civil case that he filed in this particular court was to prevent GRA from taking the car. Now, although GRA is in possession of all the evidence that what he's done was fraudulently submitted, all of the evidence are in possession of GRA, he is not inclined to accept that. And he says, well, you can't come and take the car. And he gets, now, as it stands, he has the backing of a court for that. And the court says you can't. We believe that is seriously wrong.
Right. So GRA could still take his vehicle.
No, the court has said that it can't now
if
on the appeals. You see, you have to, if we take just one moment and put it in a perspective, the laws that GRA has is to allow them to make sure they capture revenue. That's what it's designed for. And you can't do the wrong thing. You can't submit fraudulent documents and hope to hide within the law. Any interpretation of our laws must be against that. And there could be no interpretation afforded to our laws that allows that position to continue. That would be a failure of the judicial system. An absolute failure if the interpretation is to allow people to use the law as an instrument of fraud.
Honorable Datadin, it's a pleasure and wonderful speaking to you this afternoon. Thank you very much for clarifying this issue. Do you have anything, last word?
No, I wish it to be known that there are a lot of people making comments, and a lot of people are saying things about this. But this is a very simple case. Mr. Mohammed, nor no one else, should be allowed to declare a false amount as to a value of an item that is coming into Guyana, pay the grossly reduced tax on it, and then be allowed to use the court as an instrument to protect that. That should never happen.
Yeah, agreed.
All
Thank
right.
you very much. It's a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Wonderful.